Thank you, Archana, for being with us. Ladies and gentlemen, this session has been sponsored by Asigo. Our sponsor for this session is Asigo. We have Archana Singh, travel vlogger and director, Only One Travel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over here.
Right. Archana, the first thing I have to ask you is this. First of all, tell us about your own journey as a travel vlogger. Where did it begin? How did it begin?
So, it's actually like you or like so many people out here. I was in the corporate world like everybody else. I did my graduation, MBA, did the corporate stint. And until 2016-17, I was working full-time. I was based in Singapore and Philippines, working for Coca-Cola that time. But travel was always there. I come from an army background. So my dad was in army. So every week we used to travel. So it was something like which just didn't happen overnight. It was there from the school days, college days. I used to be the one who used to plan all our trips all around. So, but in 2017, I took the plunge. I thought, okay, this is it. Everybody would be watching cricket. So in cricket, like you have second innings, which is like your starting point, You forget everything which could have been in the first inning. Similarly, I thought it's the time I should take a risk. So I quit my career, came back to India and started traveling full time. So travel, writing, vlogging, blogging or Instagram, social media, all that is a byproduct. What was it was I loved exploring destinations. I love, getting to know different cultures.
And you did all of this alone?
Oh, absolutely. So how it happened was, like in my life, there's nothing more important than travel. Like I have sacrificed a lot for travel. It's not a hobby. It's not an escape. It is something deeper than that, So you would not get company. So what do? Do you wait for other people to join in? I wouldn't. So I, started traveling. And it's been like I've been to all the 7 continents, 107 countries, all by myself. And people say that travel is an expensive hobby. But no, it's not if you plan really well.
Right. One is how expensive it is, and the other is how safe it is to do it alone. Just on the top of your head, your top 3 countries where you felt the safest when you were traveling.
Okay, so firstly, I would like to say that, it is the television. I'm sorry to say that, like I'm on a program which is hosted by a TV channel, but it's the media who kind of creates that negative narrative that the world is not safe. Rather, I would say that, it's very, very safe out there, and especially if you're a solo female traveler, people are even more careful with you. So, for me, what has happened is I've always felt that the 99% of the people, they would rather help you than hurt you. So I always feel that, whichever country I might be visiting, whether in Africa, Asia, Europe, I've always felt safe provided you take some precautions. Now, asking about the safest countries, so I would say Antarctica, because there are no humans, right? Then, but if we leave that continent aside, yeah.
I didn't expect that answer.
Yeah. I would say Japan. Japan is really, really very safe, very organized for female travelers. And if you go near...
It's safe during earthquakes as well.
See, natural calamities can happen anywhere. But, if you keep that aside, the country is amazing. The level of honesty there, it's like it blows your mind. I had forgotten something when I was going to my hotel, and the next day I found it there only, which is like you can't even think in any other part of the world. So first is Japan. Second, I would say Sri Lanka, our neighbor, is very, very safe. Singapore is very safe. And Europe, if you leave aside the popular places like the whole region of Balkans, Baltics, they're all very safe, yeah.
Interesting. That's the part of Europe that I haven't been to. I know, and you're telling me that's the safest. But tell us, you're saying that it's safe as long as you take some precautions.
Yeah.
What are those precautions to travel safe and smart?
Okay. So firstly, what I do is, you would be probably the unsafest in the accommodation you choose. So I pay a lot of attention where I am staying. So these days, thanks to TripAdvisor, Google reviews and all, it has become very easy to figure out the place where you're staying. So I would always choose the accommodation basis, the reviews, reading about it, spending time, what kind of property it is. So for me, I'm okay to spend a little bit more money, but the safety is the must. I want to sleep in a safe place. So one is the accommodation. Second is I always share my whereabouts, like my itinerary, my local connections in the country where I'm going with my connections back home. Like they should always know where I am. And, before visiting any country, I always find out a local connection through my friends, through my networks, so that they can guide me, the places which I should explore, which I shouldn't explore. So I would say that keeping your folks back home and, having a local connection really, really helps. Then also following the basic, rules and regulations of that country. So I think that goes handy, yeah.
What do you do with your company? How do you, use your travel expertise, and what does your company provide consumers?
Okay. So, I come from both the marketing as well as from the consumer point of view. So the reason why I got on board with this company is, I've known the owners for a really long time. It's a Japanese company. It's a Japan-based company. So we are into luxury travel experiences. So from all around the world, be it Japan, be it Antarctica, Greenland, Svalbard, Africa. So we provide these transformative experiences. It's not about sightseeing, it's not about tick-marking destinations, but it's about having those unique experiences, that have the power to change you as a person. So that's what, has been my forte also when I was in brand management or when I was traveling myself. So I am in charge of designing some unique products and selling them to the people who are interested in that. So yeah, that's what I do.
And what are the big trends you're witnessing in that segment?
Okay, that's interesting. So one big trend that I have observed over the years is like earlier, you used to divide travelers on the basis of, okay, he's a luxury one, he's a foodie, he's an adventurer, he likes city life. All that is becoming obsolete now. Now a traveler could be like he would love to splurge in a very beautiful hotel, but at the same time he could be roughing it out in a camp. Like he would want to have a great, food experience. So nowadays what is happening is those demarcations, those lines, they are blurring. A customer wants everything. So one is that trend that I have seen a lot, and it is irrespective of all age groups, So people want more value. Not just in terms of the price, but in terms of experiences. And second thing is, Asia is becoming really big, and thanks
Where in Asia?
Actually, China and India, both the countries, they're really, really big. I was recently at this conference called Adventure Travel World Summit in Panama. And there, everybody who's big in the adventure field, they were all there. And one of the presentation, the keynote presentation, it said that if you are not focusing on Asia, you are missing the future. So yeah.
Wow, very interesting. And you're saying this for luxury travel and tourism?
Luxury, and I'm talking about like
transformative experiences.
Yes. And the people who were there, like in that conference, most of the people were from Latin America and then the rest of the world. So imagine, Latin America is so far away and they would not think about Asian customers. But suddenly, when they heard this, so their gears are also changing now. So far
you mean
away.
to say that it's Indians who are doing the traveling to doing these transformative experiences, and they are becoming, not like people are coming into India.
So it's like both, inbound and outbound,
So what are the transformative experiences that people are coming to India for?
So mostly people have been coming for health and wellness, and then also the kind of festivals that we are having like Kumbh and all other. So India is famous for spirituality, food, and all the old world, luxuries and all that. So people usually come for that. Unfortunately, over the years, the inbound is not doing as well as it should have done for the reasons we all know why that's happening. But outbound India is booming. Outbound is really doing well. Yeah.
And where are Indians, choosing the top 3 destinations for transformative experiences?
Okay, that's interesting. So usually, I won't say that they come to us, saying we want a transformative experience. That's a word which we use.
That's business.
Yeah, that's a business word. The consumers don't use it. But usually when they come, I'll give you an example. India is still driven majorly by attractions. For example, right now, the bookings to Japan, oh my God, we are refusing bookings. We are not taking any bookings because everybody wants to see cherry blossom. Everybody wants to go to Kyoto, to see the Zen feeling and to, get into the Japanese Zen culture. And then Finland, like all these Scandinavian countries. So India is still quite big on attractions, like especially these bucket list attractions, but people are also choosing wildlife, because when they go in nature, when they go to near the places where there's no shore and all that, they come back with a very, very big energy that they bring to their work and to their life. It's like rejuvenation for them. So yeah.
Interesting choices by Indians. Tell us, the thing is that now travel, once upon a time it used to be like, okay, you get married and you go on a honeymoon and then you go on travels. Now increasingly people are giving up everything in life to just travel and be with themselves.
Absolutely.
And tell us in terms of solo women travelers, what has been the kind of increase in the recent past?
Okay, this is very interesting. So, I thought solo travel for women was majorly for younger women. But I was so wrong. I was really, really wrong. So recently, I went to Antarctica. And I was amazed to see that the largest number of people over there was solo travelers. And there were women as young as in their 20s and till a women who was like 85 years old. There were like all these women from all around the world. And they said, we don't have to wait for anybody. We're going to do it. And this was not just in Antarctica. Like when I was in Iceland, there was another woman who was an Israeli. And she said, my only regret in life is that I started traveling solo very late. First, I waited for my husband, then my kids. And I realized that I wasted too much time. So I think women across the world, across geographies, across different age brackets, they're all traveling, because they've realized there's so much more to life and there's so much that you can do there, and they really don't need to depend on their families to travel.
And that means that, so many are taking to it for the first time. So many first-time solo travelers and across age groups. What is your message to them? So many who are sitting on the fence, wondering when will be the right time.
Yeah. So, like I said, people say that the world is not safe. It's actually very safe, if you go out. A stranger would not do you as much harm as a known person could do that. That's the truth.
That's interesting.
So, yeah. So, first is that, don't be so cynical about the people around you, especially strangers. Give them a benefit of doubt. But at the same time, take your brains with you. Don't just be a juvenile and, don't just think that, people are not going to take you for granted. Pay little attention to the small things and start slow. It's not necessary that you have to go on a world tour in a go. Start with the locations which could be nearby to your places. Do your research well. Speak to the people who have been to those places. Read reviews. There's so much information these days, and just go for it. Nothing should be stopping it. It's always the first step, which is the most difficult. And when you start traveling solo, then you realize that how much enriching it is. The discussions that you have, the meetings that you have when you travel solo are far deeper than, when I have done it when I'm with my family or my friends or my colleagues, I felt I've been able to connect more deeply with the destination when I'm traveling solo.
And now you have so many of these associations and groups and customized travel itineraries for solo travelers in which, it's not like exactly you're going alone. You're going with a bunch of people who are also traveling technically alone.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, it's not so big in India, but there are a few companies, which are already bringing solo women travelers and making them travel together. But globally, it's quite big, I was in Patagonia, and there I met a group of 25 women from age group from 25 to 75, and they didn't know each other. And they were traveling for 3 weeks in Latin America all by themselves. And by the end of the trip, they'd all become very, very big friends of each other. And they were all doing all the adventure activities. We think in our mind that, when you cross 60 or when you are above 70, you're going to do only leisure travel. But that's not the truth. Now people are actually pushing their own limits. So yeah, one should just go out and, if you are scared to choose to go solo by just yourself, sign up for these tours, which are there, which are plenty of them. So,
Not enough in India, unfortunately.
There are some companies who do it, and then what happens is there are so many solo travel bloggers. You can always reach out. Sometimes they also create these, group tours. For example, I have been requested so many times, so now I am launching my couple of trips, which I'll be taking.
Oh, interesting. Now that you're telling us this much, tell us what are those trips and where are those trips to?
Okay, so those are going to be a little exclusive and the destinations which are very close to my heart. So there's going to be one trip to Japan's Hokkaido in winter, because it just blows your mind when you go there and see it in winter. It is something you would have not seen before. Then there is a trip to Greenland. I think Greenland is a destination which just, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. For 7 days, you're completely cut off from your mobile network, from not seeing any other person, just you and nature. So it was just out of the world. So second is that trip, then Svalbard and Kenya and some other trips that I'll be doing. But these are the major ones, yeah.
Fascinating. Talking to you, Archana. Thank you so much. I'm afraid we've completely run out of time over here. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking part in this festival and also letting us know so much about destinations that, like, whether you're solo or not, you should explore. Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause for Archana Singh. Archana, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Lovely talking to you.